Did you know that an estimated 5 billion plastic hand soap and cleaning bottles are thrown away each year? That is such a lose-lose situation for you and the planet. Blueland is on a mission to eliminate single-use plastic by reinventing cleaning essentials to be better for you and the planet with the same powerful clean you're used to. They offer refillable cleaning products with a beautiful, cohesive design that looks great on your counters. You'll never have to grab bulky cleaning supplies on your grocery run again. I seriously love all the products, from the cleaning sprays to hand soap, toilet bowl cleaner, and laundry tablets. The other day, my cleaner Lou, shout out as I know he listens, even commented on how good these products work. So professional house cleaner approved too. Blueland has a special offer for listeners. Right now, get 15% off your first order by going to blueland.com/dateable. You don't want to miss this. blueland.com/dateable for 15% off. That's blueland.com/dateable to get 15% off.
Hi, I'm Yue Xu.
And I'm Julie Krafchick.
We're active daters turned dating sociologists.
Here to dive into everything modern dating and relationships.
Welcome to the Dateable Podcast. Hello, friends.
Welcome back to Dateable.
In our off-on season, I always like saying that because it sounds like we're baseball players. We're like in spring training, off-season, but on.
I like that.
training for our season, our next season.
Come back strong.
Yeah. We're really pumping iron for season 19, stronger than ever. Wow. Okay. So I know we've been alluding to this big announcement that we've had. It's probably been a few years, Julie.
It has been. I think 2021 is when we found out about this announcement. It's been a good year, for sure. It's definitely been a good year.
For sure. And we keep saying we're working on something. And yes, we've been working on a lot of stuff. I mean, we had our exit interviews, limited series podcast. We had our meeting people IRL masterclass. We have our Finding Your Person program that many of you have enjoyed. And those are big projects, but there's a bigger project that we've been working on in the background that it's just killing me that we haven't been able to announce for 2 years.
I know. So we will be announcing, if you are here now, you are actually getting the sneak peek early edition announcement, because we will be publicly announcing this week on Instagram and through email. But if you're here because you're the insider.
Yeah, if you're listening to this on the day of release, you are one of the first people to hear about what this is. But we're going to let you just wonder about it a little bit longer. We're not going to announce it yet. We will announce it in this episode, but we're not going to announce it yet. We can rule out a few things. Nobody's pregnant. I don't know why.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Everybody goes to that. Everybody. It's like, yes, 2 years in the making. We've been trying to get pregnant and we finally are. Both Julie and I.
It is really funny. When we put this out a long time ago, one of my friends from college texted me. It was just like, are you engaged? Are you pregnant? I'm like, why would I tell you through like my Dateable Instagram post?
Right?
That's not how you would find out if that was the case.
And I'm sorry. I feel like, okay, getting engaged, getting pregnant, getting married, those are not accomplishments. Those are events to celebrate. Yes. I think what our announcement is like something we've been working towards. This is like intentional work, putting that out there.
It's
none of those things. None of those things. And I don't know if you have any other guesses, but let's just put that out there. It's not any of those like life milestone things. But this is a huge dream of ours. It is kind of a surprise when it became an opportunity for us. And now it's coming true. It's real.
People are just like, you ain't just tell me. Tell me already. But
no,
we're going to get there. We're going to get there. Don't you worry. But before we do, we have a really great episode in store in our on-off season. We were thinking about like what have been some of those episodes, that just either made an influence, changed the way we saw things, or ones that we just thought like actually would be really freaking helpful for people to get on their radar again. Yes. And I think the one today falls into that camp of this is just that feel good episode. If you are feeling discouraged, struggling with dating, just a little down about things, our guest today, her name was Meredith. I think we met her on Instagram.
Her name's still Meredith.
Thank you for that clarification. Her name is still Meredith.
She hasn't
In
changed
the
it yet.
re-air, but a lot in her life has changed, which we'll get to. But she was
Yeah.
just, someone that interacted with us quite a bit on Instagram, a listener, devoted listener. We actually reached out to her because Yue and I floated this idea of having, what was it, like in the field daters?
Yes.
Because at the time, both of us were in relationships. So we're like, oh, maybe it'd be good to like have someone, like a little more boots on the ground in the dating world. So I remember talking to her because we put up a post on Instagram and just being like, we don't know what we're doing with this whole thing yet, but you should just come on as a guest because your story is great. Your energy is great. Just the way you view dating and the positivity, even though at times you have been dealt a difficult hand, we were like, yep, we got to book you.
The contagious thing about Meredith is that she makes a conscious choice to enjoy dating. And I think that is the biggest lesson of all.
Yeah.
You can choose to hate on dating, to be the victim in dating, or you can choose what Meredith did, which is like, I choose to find dating pleasant and fun and enjoyable and a growth opportunity for myself. So you'll hear this through her vibe in this episode of how she makes this conscious choice and how she's been able to now being in a very happy relationship.
Yeah. And when we talked to her, she talked about too, like her past and being in a relationship early and discovering infidelity. So she went through some stuff and she was very much in the thick of just like, I'm back in the dating world. And again, trying to like have that positive attitude. So it's really fun for us to see, we talk to people, what can happen a few months later. In a weird way, she was like the boots on the ground dater, just not officially.
She was our resident dater before we even had that role open. And you know what? Maybe she can't be that now because she's in a relationship, but we are still going to look for a resident dater. I think it's still going to be a thing eventually. So we're still taking applications.
Hey, and you never know. In the meantime, maybe you'll just be an episode until we can figure out what we're doing with resident dater.
It's amazing what happens when you interact with us on Instagram in a nice, positive, polite way.
It's amazing when you're a guest on the podcast, how quickly you just find the one. I'm just kidding.
It's true. It's true. We are relationship fluffers. We're love fluffers.
Love fluffers.
Yes. We set you up for love. Somehow it's like we clear the energy and then we invite in the love and bam, people just find love. I mean, the people from Exit Interview, so many of them got into relationships after we interviewed them.
We need to make t-shirts that say love fluffers.
Love
that
fluffer.
Is a must.
Proudly love fluffer.
And we can wear them on all our recordings.
Oh my gosh. I would love to also wear them out in the wild and people have no idea what it is. They'll have to come up to me.
I mean, we talk about this in our Meeting People IRL masterclass, which is still open, by the way. It's all through summer. But we talk about how like one approach is to like have a conversation piece when you're out and about that like makes people make convo with you. And I can't think of a better way than having a shirt that says love fluffer.
I know. Any shirt that's just a little bit out of the ordinary really invites in conversation. I met someone who had gone through our IRL masterclass and she said, I started wearing a shirt that says, this is my second rodeo. She's like, it's such a good shirt. It's like, it's really clever. And people come up and either compliment her on the shirt or ask her where she got it from.
What does that mean?
What does that mean?
So many
like,
conversations start. So my partner, he wears exclusively, his wardrobe is consistent of band shirts. And I am amazed how many people, usually men, but if he was in the market, it could have been a really good opportunity for someone. It's so just inviting of conversation. Like people are just like, oh, like if they recognize the band, they bring it up. If they don't, they're just like, oh, who is that? Have you seen them? Like there's so many opportunities. I just got back from New York and Boston, my whole East Coast little trip. And we were like a bagel store. And like this guy just like started talking to us because of the band shirt. And then it ended up being like a whole conversation. He was like, oh, you guys live in California? Like this whole thing. Like even though it didn't like go anywhere, it was still like nice to have that. Like I just miss those interactions.
I have to give him props. Every shirt he's worn has been super interesting to look at. Even just visually. Yeah. Like the shirt he wore on his birthday, I think it was, that you posted. One of the pictures you posted recently had a bird on it.
Oh,
I think.
yeah. A
And
lot
like,
of people
yes.
complimented the bird. Yeah.
I was like, I know this is a band shirt. I have no idea who the band is, but I'm curious to see more of the shirt.
It was one of those things, like this is a very tangent and we'll get off of it. But at the beginning, I think he thought it would command maybe more interest for women than it did. I don't mean it like he was only doing it for that. He clearly was not.
Yeah.
But I think he thought like it would be more of a selling point for me. And I'm like, I don't know if I would call it like a selling point, but it was interesting.
No. Yeah. It is very attractive when someone has such a strong interest in something,
Yes.
right? And so if you have a strong interest in a hobby or something that you've been studying about, you create this like insider language with
Yeah.
other people who have similar interests or other people who are curious what that is.
Just today's world, like anything is an excuse, could go a long way.
This is also a tangent, but I think this is like kind of related to. Trader Joe's has these cooler bags that were an internet sensation. I don't know if you saw this, Julie.
Mm-mm.
They're like these little, they're pink or they're blue. They're limited edition lunch bags, right? And they just say, they have palm trees on them. They say Trader Joe's. You can buy them for $3.99 at Trader Joe's by people who don't live close to Trader Joe's are getting them for like $100 on eBay. So all these people are fighting on the internet like, why do people care about this cooler bag? And all these people start commenting and they said, you know, in a world that's so bleak, we just need something that gives us joy.
Yeah.
And if that cooler bag brings me happiness, nobody can stand in the way of that. And I think that's the exact same thing with this mentality of meeting people IRL. Project what brings you happiness, even if it feels so random. It doesn't matter because if it brings you joy, that energy is contagious for other people to feel too.
So my takeaway is sometimes you just need a cooler bag.
I'll get you one, Julie. I think there's still some.
Is that the secret to, I don't have to go to therapy anymore? I don't have to work on my mental health. I just need to get a cooler bag.
You just need to carry around a Trader Joe's cooler bag and someone may offer you $100 for it one day.
It's a win-win. Okay, well, we could talk about cooler bags all day, but I think we should just get to the announcement because it's a little more important than cooler bags.
Gosh, all this anticipation.
So much anticipation. I'm not even sure how we start this, but we are so excited after 2 years in the making to announce that we have written a book.
Oh, a full-blown book. Full-blown. Many, many pages.
Yes, I think it comes out to like 336 is what I saw.
But don't worry, it goes by fast because
it does.
It's
so
very
riveting.
readable. Yeah, it's riveting and it's very readable and it's in our voice. So those of you who've been listening to us for a while, you'll very much get used to the tone of the book. It's very similar to how we speak. The book is called How to Be Dateable.
Yes. And, obviously it made sense with the podcast. It's really based off of all the learnings in the podcast. But when Yue and I were really thinking about it, so I guess backstory, we got this email from our wonderful editor, Ronnie Alvarado. We'll give her a shout out.
Hi, Ronnie.
And she emailed us back in 2021. December 2021, I remember the day I was at a virtual baby shower and Yue texted me. It was just like, did you see the email we got?
I was like, is this real? Is this email real? Or is this like some weird scam?
It's something we've been talking about. I actually took a book proposal class like a few months earlier. I've always wanted to write a book. That's like been a lifelong dream. And I wrote a really bad dating book. Like I never went anywhere. It was like my chronicles of dating stories. I dug it up. Terrible. So
I didn't know
that
this.
didn't go anywhere. Yeah, maybe I'll share it with you.
Wait, did you publish it?
No.
Just
I wrote
it.
like 4 pages. Yeah. This was like 10 years ago. Anyways, I'm really glad that never went anywhere. And this is how I got my book debut. Things have a way of playing out the way there should be. No one needs to read that.
Well, no. If you pre-order our book, we will send you a bonus copy
Oh my
of
God.
Julie's book.
That's the pre-order incentive.
That is actually, I
my
would
God.
pre-order just for that alone. That's a great incentive.
Oh my
Absolutely
God. The book that
do
never
it.
was.
Yes.
Okay. We might go somewhere with this. We'll see. But anyways, we were so pumped when we got this email. And the best part was that Ronnie was an avid Dateable listener.
Yes.
So we were like, oh, this is someone that not only comes from she works at Simon & Schuster. Simon Element is the imprint. Not only a super reputable publisher that's a dream publisher, but also someone that gets us, someone that sees the vision, someone understands that this isn't just like bad dating rules and, like a dumb dating book. Like, we're going to write something that, changes the way people approach dating in today's world.
And we are very grateful because everything that's been happening with the book, like the process of it, is not very traditional. I would say we're very lucky to have had the editor reach out to us first.
Yes.
And then we'll go into this in another episode of the details of the publishing industry, but basically we had a year to write a proposal with our agent and then resubmit to Simon Element, which then they decided to buy the book. So it was such I don't know, Julia, smooth a good word for, and I hate to say smooth because there definitely were some challenges along the way, but we are very lucky in the way of how things happened.
Yeah.
And the book is finally done. We are opening up pre-order sales. And if you know anything about publishing, pre-order sales are extremely important because these sale numbers are what determines the success of the book, believe it or not. So it would mean a lot to us if you all could start pre-ordering now or get your friends, spread the news, spread the word. Our baby's born.
And I was talking to my mom about this because she's like a really big reader and she pre-orders a lot. And she was like, first of all, they don't actually charge your card until the book comes.
That's good to know. Yeah.
So that's good to know. But also she's like, it's really fun to just get it when it actually comes
out.
It's
like a surprise.
Yeah, it's really fun. But we have really, just been taking all the learnings of Dateable. We are thinking about it. We're like, what do we want to talk about? And when Yue and I were just brainstorming with our agent at the time, it was very clear that dating is not a good place. I'm not saying any new news to anyone here. No. I think everyone understands that. Like, we were like, this is a love crisis. Like, this is not okay that, everyone's like, dating sucks. We're in a dating apocalypse.
Yeah.
More people are continuously getting divorced or just delaying marriage and, relationships, avoiding them completely. So we're like, this is the angle. And like, how do we get to what is it that's, trapping people, like keeping people stuck? If you're real time, you might not have seen the announcement yet, but you will see it tomorrow. Our cover image perfectly encapsulates this because it truly is this maze that you cannot get out of in today's world of modern dating.
What makes this book different is that we are not telling you what you're doing wrong. We're not faulting you. We're not reprimanding you.
Yeah.
What we're doing is, okay, let's just lay out what the fuck is happening right now, why we're in a love crisis, and how do we rise above it? And the only way we can do that is on an individual level to say, you know what, I'm done with this. I want to do something different that's better for my mental health.
Yes.
And this book, the reasons why it's called How to Be Dateable is that we lay it out exactly what to do to rise above modern dating shenanigans and say, I'm over the shit. Like, I'm not going to subscribe to this anymore. I don't care how many days it takes to text someone back and what happens if someone ghosts me. Fuck that. That's like old school modern dating. Let's figure out what the next V2 version of dating would look like. And you can all get an advanced spot in that next phase of dating and not be stuck in the past where most people are.
Stuck in that endless maze. No one wants to be in there. Let's find a way out. That is the crux of what we've learned by doing this dating podcast. And it's not where we started. And we've made many posts about this. Like, we really don't believe you need to be good at dating because the way dating is set up today, it's setting everyone up for failure. And we need a different way. And I love that. It's like, we're not telling anyone to adapt to dating culture, to mold yourself to fit in, but how do you just rise above it and do it your way so you DIY that relationship ultimately that works for you?
Absolutely. And why this episode right now is so relevant is because Meredith inspired a lot of this for us too, because we saw her after we got off our interview with her. Julie and I were like, dude, she is in the future of dating. Like, she's not stuck in the past. And that's why she's enjoying it so much. So you'll see we've followed a cohort of people who've really just taken that leap to V2 of what that could look like for dating and how much happier they are living in this new universe as opposed to being stuck on this cog in a machine of the old world dating, which is serving nobody.
Yes. So you can go to our website. Everything is there. The pre-orders are there. Like you and I said, said, it would mean so much to us just for support, because this is truly what gets our book to booksellers. It gets us to, I mean, freaking lifelong dream would be on New York Times bestsellers list. But I think it ultimately helps everyone, because the more people that can get this in their hands too will stop doing the BS of dating that we all hate.
Yes.
Let's change the way we date.
Eventually, we hope that you all choose to date someone who's read the book. Like the people who haven't read the book, leave them where they are.
Nope. We're good. This is the way to filter out.
This is the ultimate filter.
That should be on your profile. Have you read How to Be Dateable?
Yes.
Nope. Okay. Here you go. Here's the copy. We'll revisit in 3 months.
And not to toot our own horn, but I'm going to toot our own horn. We are love fluffers. We have been able to set people up for love. And this book is helping us to do that at scale, right? Now we can really show you, lay out exactly what it feels like to clear out the bad energy and to invite in the love that you all deserve.
And I mean, some people might be like, how is it different from the podcast? And it's a very valid question. It has taken you and I 8 years to piece together all of this from doing this podcast. And we listen to every single episode because we record every episode. We listen to every episode probably 5 times between editing, recording, just listening, all of it. Also study dating. And it's taken us 8 years to piece this all together. So the book here is our gift to not have you spend 8 years piecing together modern dating, but to give you that blueprint that you read and you are ready to go.
We spent 10,000 plus hours just so you don't have
need to.
You're welcome. You only have to spend some time reading 300 some pages. That's it.
It goes fast. It's a fast read too.
There's some nice visuals in there too that make me giggle.
Yes. Some stories, all the good stuff. All the good
stuff.
Well,
we'll go into all the details of the birth of this book in a different episode, but we just really want to get this announcement out finally, because oh my God, it feels so
good.
We've kept it a secret. We've definitely told some of our close friends and family, and a lot of them are like, is your book out yet? Like, isn't it time? It's been so long.
I know. People have like stopped asking a little because they're just like, when is this happening? But I will give a shout out though. Like, we have not told the Dateable community this is the first time, but we did talk to a few people in our like moderator group for Big Dateable Energy, because we actually needed help from them. We have a quiz in the book that is kind of like at the forefront of like your dating archetype that will help like personalize the book. And we actually had a lot of them take this quiz, work through it with us so we could get it to a good place for you all. So those people knew.
Everyone loves a good quiz though. Cannot pass up a good quiz.
Oh yeah, never. Anyways, more to come. This is not going to be the last announcement, but we are so happy to share this news because this truly has been just, I think, a wonderful experience all in all, of just how much we've grown in terms of the way we think about dating. A book really forces you to do that. And then just, our dream of just getting this info out into the world.
Feels so good. We can take a deep breath now because it's out there in the universe. Thank you all for supporting us through this. We feel your positive energy. Get ready to get sick of us talking about the book, but you know what? It's going to help people. So we feel good about talking about it. We're not going to stop, but we're still in our off on season, but we'll just keep feeding you all more information about the book.
Yep. howtobedateable.com. You can also find it on our dateablepodcast.com website also.
And tattooed on our arms.
How to be dateable across the chest.
No, just our book cover on my face.
That's a conversation starter.
On my face. Just
a giant maze through your nose.
She have a tat on her entire face. It's the book. It's the book. How to Be Dateable. The book of the century. Okay, get with it.
It is funny though, because we didn't actually fully know the time that we were going to announce versus plan this off season. And actually we had Meredith plan that we were going to put this episode out, The Secret to Enjoying Modern Dating, before the release. But then when we were doing it, we're like, this is actually perfect because this is the epitome of someone that really took control of their love life.
So, all right, that's it. We'll just stop now. We'll stop now. You'll see all the comms about it very soon. And we're about to get our hands on the physical copy of it soon. So you'll see that we'll reveal that when we get that.
Yes. Okay. Well, I feel like that's
Yep.
the announcements of this. I don't need to do
Nope.
even more. At Dateable Podcast, if you want to see the cover tomorrow or get on our email list and you'll actually be able to see it. Or another way to see it is just to be getting it pre-ordered, which you can go and do.
Yes.
Okay. Well, before we get into it, let's take a minute to hear from some of our sponsors of the episode.
Yay, it's summer, my favorite season. And you know what can make summer even better? Via hemp products. Need to chill out after a long day in the sun? There's a Via gummy for that. Dealing with anxiety or stress with summer travels? There's a gummy for that. Want to set the mood in the bedroom? There's a gummy for that. And that is actually my favorite gummy from Via. I'm talking about their best-selling High Love Gummy, a unique blend of pleasure-enhancing cannabinoids, libido-strengthening herbs, and a medium dose of THC all into one mind-blowing gummy that will awaken your senses, increase blood flow, and intensify any sexual experience. I know it's meant for sexy time, but here's a little trick for you. I actually just love taking it for some of my longer walks. It makes all my surroundings look, smell, and feel so nice. And if THC is not your thing, Via also offers a wide array of THC-free gummies. Whatever you want to be in the mood for, Via has something for you. If you're over 21 years of age, you can get 15% off plus a free pack of award-winning gummies with our exclusive code DATEABLE at viahemp.com. That's spelled VIIAHEMP.com. And don't forget to use the code DATEABLE to get 15% off and a free pack of their award-winning gummies.
I am so excited to talk about our partner, Osea. You've probably heard me raving about this product, but I seriously cannot get enough. Feels like I'm having a spa day in my home every time I use their Undaria algae body oil. I love how it visibly firms my skin and leaves it feeling silky, soft, and unbelievably glowing. And it's the smell too. It just makes me feel like I'm at the spa because it smells like summer, bottled with all natural, uplifting notes of mango, mandarin, grapefruit, lime, and cypress. I also love that with Osea, I never have to choose between my values and my best skin because it's all vegan and cruelty-free, and also mother and daughter founded. Get healthy, glowing skin for summer with clean vegan skin and body care from Osea. Get 10% off your first order site-wide with code DATEABLE at OseaMalibu.com. You'll get free samples with every order and free shipping for orders over $60. Head to OSEAMalibu.com and use the code DATEABLE for 10% off. Okay, let's hear it from Meredith about the secret to enjoying modern dating.
A few months ago, we asked for some resident daters who are in the thick of dating to do some reporting from the sidelines, if you will, because both Julie and I are no longer in the dating scene. And Meredith was basically the first to raise her hand and say, I'll do it. I'll be your resident dater. We're still figuring out what that looks like, but we figure let's just get Meredith on the show and talk about dating since this is a dating podcast anyway. And here we are, our Instagram friend, Meredith. How are you?
Oh, thank you. Hi. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited that you said yes, because I have so many people on Instagram that want to talk about dating specifically in your 30s. And so I think this is a great forum.
Awesome. I know.
Nice.
It's always so fun to meet people behind the Instagram handle, that we've been interacting with for quite some time. So encourage others to also DM us like Meredith has.
Yeah,
I
you're
will.
a real
You guys
person.
are real. You respond. And you're real too. We're all real people just living, figuring this out.
We're all humans. So who is Meredith? She's 34 years old, lives in the Inland Empire here in California, originally from Dallas. She's pretty single, been taking a dating sabbatical and actively going on dates. So you're doing both, taking a dating sabbatical and going on dates.
I said both because it depends on the week. Honestly, if I'm really busy with work, life is crazy, or I've got a ton of if I'm traveling, sometimes I'm into it, sometimes I'm not. But I really go week by week, how do I want to spend my time this week? Is it dating? Is it not? And I just try to really check in with myself as to be where I'm at.
I mean,
So where
that
are
is
you
such
at?
a good segue. Yeah. Where are you at?
I feel badly because when I messaged you, I had so many dates and right now it's a little bit quieter. So I'm in a little bit of a lull.
That's okay.
And that's okay.
That's kind of how it is, right?
Yeah, it takes so much time and so much energy and so much effort. And I really try to use my time wisely and check in with myself. And if I'm not not showing up as my best self in the moment, then I know I need to take a pause, lean way into self-care, do what I want to do, get myself into a place where I'm really feeling good, and open and wanting to get to know somebody. So that is one thing I wanted to just talk about, of self-care and preservation through the dating process, because it can feel so daunting, but I actually really like dating. I really like getting to know people. I like the dating process. So I have to keep myself grounded and take care of myself so that it's still fun.
I was going to ask you that. We talk about relationships, but how would you describe your relationship with modern dating?
Love, hate. I guess a lot of people
I think a lot of people use that. Yeah.
So, I mean, the idea of living in a village a long time ago, before you had access to online dating and you only had the options in your town of people who set you up, that sounds a little bit limiting to me. So while I know a lot of people romanticize about those old days, for me, I mean, I work in corporate HR, so I'm used to, recruiting and volume and staffing. And so I see the benefit of the number. You just get exposed to more people that are outside of your normal circle. So I love that aspect of it. I hate the fact that it's starting to make people, and I have done it to other people sometimes, feel disposable. And that is something that I think about a lot. I have ghosted people. I try not to, and I've gotten a lot better about giving feedback. I give feedback at the end of a date right away. I don't want to have that pit in my stomach, and I don't want anyone else to have that pit in their stomach. So if I'm not feeling it, I just say it right away. I say, hey, yes, I say, this was really fun. I enjoyed getting to meet you, but I don't think I'm going to want to take this any further. And if they ask why, I tell them why. I don't want this second guessing and this wondering or the awkwardness of me. How do I respond to their text the next day? I just say it.
God, you make it sound so simple.
You truly are a recruiter. You really are. End of the first interview, you're like, we won't be moving forward to the next round.
And that's probably my problem. Like, if you guys were going to diagnose me today,
date like a recruiter. Yeah.
You would say, hey, Meredith, you got to get out of your HR recruiter mode, and you've got to just let some things happen and not control everything so quickly. So that's something that I'm personally working on. I have a therapist that I work with, and I just think, I have an amazing skill set for work that does translate into dating a lot, but sometimes it's too much and I need to turn it off.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that you're even aware in the first place is the first step, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And maybe sometimes that there's nothing wrong with that, because closing the loop is a good thing instead of leaving people hanging, but maybe taking some of the corporateness out of dating would be good. I would love to know, when was your last relationship?
My last relationship was in 2019 in Dallas.
Okay. And how long was that relationship for?
It was one of those on and off, but it was for about a year and a half.
Okay.
Well, we've all had one of those, haven't we?
I wouldn't do it again. I don't recommend. But for me, it was a great part when I think about relationships and dating history as far as growth and what I learned from it. I was dating somebody who was very recently divorced and dealing with that. And there was a child involved, and I'm single, never divorced, no kids. I have a cat, and I have a lot of hair products and a lot of shoes. But other than that, I bring a different amount of things to the table. And I wasn't used to navigating, and I wasn't comfortable navigating the every other weekend girlfriend. And that was really, really hard. And I think there were some other complications after therapy related to that one that I've figured out, related to just love languages and what are my needs, and they just weren't being met. Something that you guys talked about recently, I don't remember which episode, but I remember hearing it and I was like, oh shoot, I think that's me. You talked about wanting to win and competitiveness. And I realized that I think in some relationships, I just wanted to win versus thinking, is this really the right person for me? Or do I just want them to want me?
You and everyone else. Yeah.
I mean, haven't we all been there? But so 3 years ago, 2019, you were just starting your 30s, dating in your 30s.
Yes.
And at the top of this episode, you talked about, I speak to a lot of people who are dating in their 30s. How has dating in your 30s been different than your 20s?
Oh my gosh. Well, so I was in a relationship for a very long time in my 20s. So I was with one person from 21 to 27. So experienced a lot of firsts with that person, was living in Boston. It was just a very different life. So I was sort of establishing establishing who I was going to be as an adult and as a, 20 something young professional in a city. I was establishing myself with somebody always in the back of my mind, always someone that I was thinking about. And I made a lot of choices, career wise, lifestyle wise, things that I don't think I would have done if I had known myself before I got so enmeshed in this relationship. So when that ended, and it was painful and it was hard and it was brutal and required a lot of work to get through after. But once that was done, I realized I don't ever want to feel this way again. I felt like I kind of lost myself. And a lot of people do that, and in any age, any relationship. But being single at 27 and saying, hey, I don't know anyone anything, like this is my life and it's going to be up to me how I spend my time and where I live and what I do and how much money I make and how much education I get. Like this is all on me. It made me have a level of personal accountability that I don't think I ever took before. And I couldn't blame somebody else. So being in my 30s now and dating, I know who I am. I've tried on some different styles of dating. I've tried on some different things. I like to say I tasted the menu, after being with, one person for that long. I went out and was like, what could this be like? What would this be like? I'm just going to be really, really open and try different things. And that was really fun. And I recommend everybody go through that experience. And doing it a little bit later in life, I kind of knew what was for me and what wasn't for me pretty quickly versus waiting 5 years.
I definitely want to get into the tasting the menu. I'm going to sidebar that for now because I want to go back there. We're not letting that slip away. But
Deal.
I think it's interesting because I feel like you had a very similar experience too. And I'm the opposite. Like I definitely was a late bloomer, did not put dating at the forefront in my 20s, all about finding myself. So very opposite. It's an interesting parallel that you two have. The fact that it's almost like you are doing what society tells you to do. You're going through like the more traditional path, right? Mm-hmm. I guess like Meredith, like from your perspective, if you could go back in time, would you do it the same way you did it? Or do you feel like you would actually like benefit more from being single earlier?
If I could go back in time, and I don't really believe in regret, so I don't regret, going through the experience and learning what I learned. But if I were talking to, let's say, one of my nieces now who was kind of in this situation at a younger, at a different point in life, I would just say that you don't have to do what your parents did, and you don't have to do what everyone around you and your church group did or your school did. You really can forge your own path, and you're probably going to end up a lot happier than some of the people who maybe haven't, or it just may not be for you. So you're going to end up a lot happier by trusting your gut. And if you know something's not right or something's not feeling right and you're not with a partner that can communicate and talk through it, then it's probably better to be single and explore. But, growing up in Texas, people get married really young. People partner off very young. And so I was off in Boston and I took a lot of my Texas values and the way I was raised to Boston. And you talk about, I'm kind of a weird mix of the two of you, I think, because I was a late bloomer in that I went to an all-girls high school and then I went to a mostly gay college. I went to Emerson College where the phrase was gay by May or your money back. I mean, it was really, liberal and it was shocking. That phrase is
out my water.
That phrase is not. It's not on the website, but everybody knew it.
I hope it's not on the website.
It's not the official tagline of the universe. That would be incredible if
Every
it was.
person
though.
who hears this who went to Emerson would know that. Like that was just.
I went to BU and I'm nodding my head.
So
I've heard it.
Exactly. Okay. So I was a late bloomer and I didn't really date a lot in high school. I was always in theater and I was always doing choir and I was just very busy with my friends. And the only guys I knew were in theater and those weren't really an option. So, I went to Boston and I was like, I want to kiss a boy. And then I'm like, I want to date a boy. I want to be in a relationship. And I made all those things happen. And so working through, what I talked about a little bit earlier about the competition and all of that, did I force this relationship into more of something than it really was? And was the person just willing to go along with it until he wasn't? I've had a lot of time to reflect and think back to what were my pieces of that. And, I wasn't perfect. He really wasn't perfect. But when I first got out of that relationship, I had that blame and that like victim mentality. I know that I went on some dates that I've probably blacked out, but we, you talk about sampling the menu. I went on some dates where I definitely trauma dumped. I definitely went, woe is me, and here's my story, and I got cheated on, and this is what happened.
Yep.
And nobody wants to hear that when they want to date you. No man wants to hear that ever, really.
It's not a therapy session.
And definitely
No.
not on a first date. And so even like back to the 2019 relationship, I kind of highlined the top key points as we got more serious that he needed to know and kind of what I learned from that. But I haven't trauma dumped since. And it just took me time and figuring out this didn't land well. This didn't, kind of like a stand-up comedian trying new material. Yeah. Like, this didn't land well. That didn't get the reaction I wanted. Why? I wonder why.
So I want to talk about cheating.
Oh,
So I feel like cheating is a big one.
Yeah.
How do you think, obviously cheating is never a fun experience. I don't think anyone will say that regardless of your stance on cheating. How do you think this impacted you moving out of this relationship and dating in the future?
It made it so hard. It made it really hard for me to trust anyone. It made me just doubt people's intentions. It also definitely hit my self-esteem. So, part of my whole Instagram journey, my Instagram is just my personal Instagram that I was posting on. I never had the intent of trying to make it something or become an influencer. That wasn't even a word that was used when I was posting. So we're talking January of 2015 is when I moved back to Dallas. And I just wanted to figure myself out and kind of reclaim my life. But my confidence was at an all-time low. And I thought I was unworthy of love and unworthy of commitment. And thoughts like that still creep in, but I've managed to find worth completely apart from anybody else's perspective of me or anyone else's time commitment in me or investment in me. So that I've been able to work through, but it's still, it's a deal breaker for me. It's not something that I can get over. It's because it comes down to trust. It's not even the act of the cheating. It's the trust and the relationship.
When did the cheating happen?
I don't really know when it started, but I found out about it in December of 2014.
Okay, so this is the long-term boyfriend.
Yes. So as far as I know, this is the only person who's ever cheated on me. That I'm confirmed of, for sure. We'll say that. We'll put it that way. But yes, this was the long term.
And was that what ended it?
That was it. Yeah, that was it for
Okay.
me. But after a lot of therapy and time and spent journaling and traveling and working on myself, the end was in sight. The end had already been coming. There were a lot of indicators that I just either didn't want to pick up on or wasn't experienced in relationships to know that this is more than somebody kind of acting out or being distant or, there's something more here and I can't quite grasp it. And I didn't know what it was. I had a friend who had recently experienced something like this and I was talking to her and I kind of thought we were maybe getting engaged. My parents were coming for Christmas. My brother and his wife had just gotten married.
Wow.
They're younger. I really thought maybe he's being weird because he's getting engaged or we're getting engaged and he's just having, all that emotion. And maybe he's being distant because he got a part-time job and he's saving up money for a ring. My mom has had to tell me since I was a child, life is not a show, life is not a play, Meredith, because I love theater and I grew up in the theater. And I think, we see these rom-coms and we read these books and we have these unrealistic expectations and we make excuses for people. And if I had cut it off way sooner and just said, hey, now I would just say, hey, you're acting really weird and consistency is really important to me. And you're really inconsistent right now. You're coming home really late. You're not telling me who you're hanging out with. You're flaking on plans. And this is not okay with me. And then that would be it. But instead, it lasted for weeks and months and things that went on. And so the friend that had recently been cheated on, she said, hey, you may want to check your phone bill. And I never wanted to check. And I really didn't doubt him. And I hadn't been looking at his stuff. I really trusted him after that much time and investment. But I paid for the phone bill. And so I had the account. And so I logged on and I saw a ton of calls and text messages from a number that was out of state. And I confronted him about it. Well, actually, my best friend at the time in Boston, she called the number for me on our lunch break.
Oh my gosh.
It was like a movie, right? We went downstairs. We were at the John Hancock Tower working.
Yeah.
We went downstairs. She called the number and said, who's this? And the girl said, who's this? And she did it for me because I was shaking. I couldn't speak. I felt like I was going to puke. And he and I worked close by. We worked a couple blocks away from each other. And so she said, I'm dating this person. And my friend said, well, he lives lives with somebody. He's in a relationship. And that was really it. I don't really remember. I kind of blacked out, but it was a short conversation.
So she didn't know.
I don't think so. I don't think so. From that conversation, I don't think so.
Yeah.
They're married now.
Oh, shit.
So, maybe something amazing came out of it for them. But I told him to meet me in Copley Square Plaza, and we sat down. I said, you need to meet me right now. And we sat down, and I said, what is this? Like, this is what I know. What is happening? And he said, I haven't decided yet. I'll never forget that. He said, I haven't decided what I want to do.
Wow. What?
Like, not apologize.
Not really. He looked guilty.
It's his choice.
And I said, I'll make it really easy for you. And this is a girl who is broken and upset and trying to figure out, we live together. Like, what am I going to do? We had a dog and a cat and we had travel plans. And, I thought we were going to get married. But, when he said that, I didn't even think about it. The first thing I said was, well, I'll make it really easy for you. I'm not an option. So go be with her. Mm-hmm. And he did.
I mean, like, I think that this is living proof. I mean, we're obviously seeing you and you're, seem so happy and vibrant. You can come back from really hard situations.
Totally. You totally can.
Yeah.
And that's probably what a lot of women message me about. And I'm careful. I don't want to make that my narrative forever going forward. That was so long ago at this point.
Right.
I've really moved on, but I have people that are just now getting divorced and maybe they're in their 30s or 40s or going through a significant breakup. And it kind of felt like a divorce. Our lives were very much intertwined.
Yeah.
And so I can really relate to that woman that's like, hey, I'm starting over and I'm really upset and really sad. And I don't know if I'm going to make it through this. I can't see what it looks like on the other side. So thank you for sharing, what you're going through or what you've been through. Thank you for showing that life does get better. But that if I had a mission, it would be that for sure.
There's something very nuanced going on here where I feel like a lot of women that I've spoken to have done this, where you feel like I'm not going to say anything, even though something's off, because I feel like there's going to be a big payoff, like a proposal or a surprise vacation, or it's my birthday coming up. We intuitively know something is off and this relationship as is today is not sustainable. But for some reason, we can forego that because we think that this is working towards something big, quote unquote, that doesn't really matter. Like a proposal from someone who's not right for you is not a good thing at all.
Right. A proposal to somebody who lies to you and keeps things from you.
Yeah.
It's not going to end well either way. So what are you waiting for?
No.
I can feel your pain though of like when it feels like you've lost yourself in someone, because I definitely have been there before, and I think that made it a lot harder to bounce back. And when you look at a relationship that you are like, I did not state my needs, I did what they wanted, like that makes it very hard. And I know for myself, and I love to hear about you, therapy changed my life. And I did that because of that situation. In retrospect, I probably should have done it a lot earlier than that, but sometimes it takes like that type of thing to push you to do the work that you need to do. How do you think your life has changed since you've grown from what happened?
I feel like there are infinite possibilities in my life. I feel like any life that I want for myself, I can make happen. And I felt like with him, a lot of things weren't going to be in the cards for me or weren't going to be possible because of what he wanted or his preferences or his lifestyle. I feel like I can really lean into who I am and what I want. You mentioned going to therapy right after. I didn't. I wasn't prepared. I couldn't tap into how upset and sad I was. And so I started from the outward in, and I don't think it matters. I think as long as you do something for yourself. So I started with fitness and finding out nutrition, things that I actually like to eat after living a life of diet culture where I felt like guilty for eating a salad with breaded chicken, right? Like I had a lot of internal stuff that I had to work on, but I couldn't tap into it until I started somewhere. And so for me, that was, I went to senior citizens yoga classes because I was unemployed and it was really cheap. I moved, I did chair yoga with a bunch of ladies in their, 70s
Lovely.
and 80s because it was almost free. I walked, I started walking, I remember that I love nature and I love hiking and I love the outdoors. And the person that I was with, liked drinking in the outdoors, but didn't really like the outdoors that I like. And so I just started leaning into those things and those activities. And then honestly, I didn't end up starting to go to therapy until after the relationship in 2019. I was like, I need to talk to somebody because because I don't want to keep repeating the same patterns. And I'm too old. I've gone through too many things to keep living the same thing with different people. And so even though the relationships were different, there were still some things attachment style wise. You talk about attachment styles and love languages and just communication and clarity. And I just needed help. So finally, because I did all of that external stuff, like I went and I got my MBA, I got a certificate. I did all the kind of the stuff and the things. And then I was still staring at myself at the end of the day and realized I needed to go deal with some of that internal stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that stuff's valid though, too, because you built a life, right? And I think
I did.
That's so big, especially if you're unraveling out of a shared life that was not your own. So I totally get in your circumstance why you went that route first. And I think that actually is something beautiful that can come from a breakup also.
Totally. And even the whole Instagram thing, I was just trying to figure out my style. I had gotten into a rut of Boston and leggings and dark tunics and jackets. And I didn't even know, I was always commuting on a train and I showed up looking disheveled and sweaty anyway, no matter what I wore. So I felt, I'm in Texas. I can show up in air conditioned and I can wear heels. Like I want to figure out what I like to wear and what colors I like and what styles I want to play. And that was before any weight loss, any physical transformation. Like I wanted to celebrate my body as it was and figure out my style.
I love hearing that because I think in the similar relationship I was in my 20s, from 22 to 27, I latched my identity to this relationship to the point where I couldn't. Sometimes you need to step out of the situation to see it for what it is. And I never was able to step out of it, not until when I was 27 and was getting out of this relationship. I had this moment of, who the fuck am I? Who am I? If I were to describe myself and what my personality is and my passions, my hobbies, I don't know, because these were all shared hobbies, interests, shared friends, shared restaurants. And it was so exciting to reacquaint with myself and to meet myself again. It's a very scary thing too. And it sounds like you also went through that. It's like, ooh,
totally.
Let's see where this ends up. But it's so exciting.
Yes, I physically packed my bags and I moved back to Texas and my parents took me in. I moved in with my parents and I just had some time to sort of reframe, reset, refocus my whole life. And I started with working out and my career and eventually led to the internal work and what kind of mark I want to leave on this world. It's been truly amazing. And so I went from, I was crying a lot and not really getting out of bed and, I had to talk through things with my parents and bless my parents. They're my best friends. They listened and they listened and they listened and they just took such great care of me. But they also pushed me and encouraged me to take this time for myself and to do the things that I'd always dreamt that I could do or wanted to do. So, and not everybody has that. And I know what kind of privilege that is to be able to go home and reset. And I'm so grateful for that. But my life is so much more full now. And I don't have resentment inside me anymore. I really don't. And I wish my ex well with this person. I don't talk to him and wouldn't and have no need to, but I don't hate him. I don't wish that he got hit by a bus. I've worked through that. And I think that's really that forgiveness is so precious and helps me approach people differently than I would have right after.
Let's hold that thought for a few messages. Are you out there in the dating world searching for that long-term, forever kind of connection? Whether you're riding solo or in a fresh relationship, I've got the perfect podcast just for you. It's none other than Sexology, hosted by the amazing Dr. Nazanin Moali, a psychologist and certified sex therapist. On Sexology, Dr. Moali deep dives into everything about sexual health and relationships, giving you profound insights about the mysteries of love and intimacy. From unraveling emotional bonds to tackling sexual hurdles and boosting your sexual well-being, there's no podcast quite like Sexology. One of my recent favorite episodes was No Question Off Limits, a sex educator tells all. My mind was truly blown. But wherever you start, each episode is jam-packed with incredible strategies and eye-opening insights. And don't forget to catch up on some of the past episodes, such as what it means to be bad in bed, what exactly happens at a sex club, and how to become an expert in sexting. No matter where you start, this podcast will inspire you to view sex and intimacy in a whole new light, guiding you through your relationship journey with confidence. Tune in every Tuesday on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast fix. So I told you I wasn't going to forget about this, but I want to talk about the sampling the menu because that's the other part of, emerging into your new self to start dating. Yeah,
oh my
tell
gosh.
us all.
Well, okay. So I think I probably come off as a little bit goody-goody, right? I work in corporate HR. I grew up in the South, right? But I never quite figured out like who was my type. You talk about types. I didn't really have one. Like I just like people that made me laugh. And I still like people that make me laugh. That's still something that I find attractive. You talk about the types, and I'm probably still doing it a little bit now that I moved close to LA because there are types that maybe I never would have had exposure to. So it's a season of life. It comes and it goes. But yeah, I got on all the dating apps and I tasted the menu. I thought, I'm going to try to date someone who's divorced with kids, someone without kids. I'm going to date an accountant. I'm going to date a lawyer. I'm going to date a frat bro who hasn't grown up yet. I'm going to date a musician. I'm going to
plenty of those.
There's so many. Yeah. I mean, it's been a while since I've like gone back to that sample of tasting the menu. So I'd have to really, I dated a guy from high school that I'd always had a crush on. We actually dated on and off for a little bit. Like I went back and checked that out and experienced that for what that was. And he was darling and sweet and very attentive and a very good, I won't say rebound, but like a safe place to date after going through what I went through, but not someone to carry on into the future. And he would say that as well. We just had I was just super driven and he was at a more relaxed pace. So, but that was really great just to try different experiences out. And I mean, even now being an hour and a half from LA, I have dated a drummer. I've gone out with an actor, there's an entertainment lawyer, there's a comedian lurking. Like it's less, I used to be so specific about what I thought I was looking for. And I've realized that as I've met my own needs, I've become much more open to the types of people that I will date because I'm not looking for them to fulfill something that I haven't done for myself.
What I love about you, and we talk about this a lot, is like being intentional, but also open. And what does that mean? Because they're all like, vague buzzwords and it's hard to quantify what that really means. But what you just said, you're dating with such an open mind, but you also know what's important to you. And I think that is like the equation essentially.
Right. Well, I had a friend, and my best friend is my complete opposite. So we're the yin to each other's yang. We are so different from each other. And I remember one time I told her I wouldn't date a male nurse. And she said, well, that's really rude, Meredith. Why would you say that? Like, that's very derogatory. And I said, I wouldn't date a male doctor either. I don't like talk about blood and guts. My mom is a nurse and I grew up like she ruined spaghetti for me for many years because of dinner conversation. Like it just wasn't for me. And I mean, I could date someone in the medical field who didn't talk graphically, but she thought, she was thinking, she was kind of saying, hey, Meredith, you're putting someone out of a category for not a really good reason. But then when I told her my reason, she said, oh, okay, that kind of makes sense.
And then what do you think about, I can hear some of our listeners saying, well, I want to be open-minded, but at what point do you say, I need to narrow down my preferences? Because if you're so open all the time, sometimes you could get lost in that sea of samples and just say, whatever goes.
Right. I mean, I used to say I'll go out on a first date with pretty much anyone because it's very low stakes. You're having a coffee, having a beer, something very quick, casual. It doesn't have to take that long. And for me, I try to think of it as like, I'm going to experience something new. I'm going to go to a place I've never been, or I'm going to get a cup of coffee at a place I've heard about. So I try to make it a combo. So at least something was a win. Even if the date was a bust, I at least tried something I wanted to try. But for me, I have to reel it in, right? I only have so much time and so much energy. And so I have, listened to some of the things you guys have recommended. And during the pandemic, especially, it was a great way to weed people out from the volume, to do a video chat or do a voice call before a first date, just to see, is there conversational chemistry? Because if there's not over the phone or in a video chat, for me, it's not going to happen in person. That conversational chemistry, I can talk to a brick wall. So if I can't talk to you, there's just no point in wasting the gas money in today's economy.
Exactly.
So I narrow it down that way a lot. I mean, I am very open. And I think being 34, you're in that weird range where there's all the memes about you could date the person or you could date their dad. It's really true. So I try to keep my age settings really open because age doesn't necessarily account for experience and somebody's core and who somebody is. Now, have I been on a date with a 24-year-old recently and a 52-year-old? Yes. Yes, and yes. Were there a lot of differences? No. Men are kind of the same.
Interesting.
I had all these expectations. I think the 24-year-old was probably a little more mature. So you just don't know. So I think with the apps and the settings, like you've just got to keep them pretty wide open, but then do the weeding out as you have the conversations. And that's where a lot of people get burned or get tired or exhausted. I have a pretty standard opening combo, and it doesn't matter what app it is. I'll reach out first. If I'm interested, I'll start the conversation. It doesn't cost me anything. It's free. It takes 2 seconds. If they don't respond well or they don't respond, then okay, we swipe them off and we keep going down the queue. Like there's really no harm. So I would hate to miss somebody because they're shy, because I probably should be with someone a little more introverted to balance me out.
Those are the best people. The non-flashy people are the best people.
Right.
The
And so
internet.
in our Instagram worthy, life that we're leading, I think you've got to be so careful. I actually look for the profiles that are not as sparkly or perfect.
Yes.
I love a guy with some bad photos.
Same.
Yeah. Where they're all like a little bit blurry, or he's got a bunch of, you can tell that he has friends. Yeah.
The
You can
worse,
tell
the
that he
better.
has friends. You can tell it hasn't been curated.
Not linked to his Instagram.
No, follow me on Snapchat
No.
or Instagram or any of those things.
Yeah, I think that's really important because we talk about this a lot. There's no way you can learn anything from a 2D profile photo.
Absolutely
in
not.
profile.
And I've made
There's
the
no
mistake
way.
of thinking you know someone based on a couple pictures and a couple lines, and you really don't. They're still a stranger. And, I think because of my age or just generation timeline, I've done a lot of app dating. Like it has been a pretty easy way for me to meet people. However, coming out of the pandemic, my personal goal for myself is to meet more people in person, especially moving to California. I don't know anybody. The app thing, me not knowing anyone and not knowing who they know, I just feel like it would be better to meet someone with a little bit of common ground. So I've been joining the meetups, which haven't met anyone that I'd want to date from a meetup, but I still have joined them. I went to there's one in Los Angeles for people who love free concerts. And so there was like a symphony concert and, just kind of meeting people. You never know who knows somebody. That's the HR networker in me is like, there may be absolutely no one at the
Definitely.
event that I'm interested, but I could make a friendship and they could have a group of friends that they could introduce me to. So I do try to stay open in that way. And, the whole picking up people at bars thing, have I done it? Sure. Is it usually, a great foundation for a lasting relationship? Probably not, because I'm still single. But for me, even having that confidence to approach someone or have them approach me and engage in a conversation, that's a win for me, because growing up and after my relationship in my 20s, I would have been so terrified and so insecure that I wouldn't have been able to even engage in that way. And now I'm like, yeah, let's have a conversation. Who knows who you are? I went to a brewery by myself a couple weeks ago. I had lunch with a friend and I was in a new area and I said, hey, I've got some work that I want to do. I'm doing some writing. I want to go sit at a brewery and just, be in a different space than my apartment, get out of the house. And so she recommended a brewery and I went, and there were these two guys next to me. And so they follow me on Instagram now, but they were, sorry, I gotta be careful what I say, but they were sitting next to me and I overheard their conversation because I'm an observer of people. Like my background is theater. I'm always observing people. I love to listen. I love to see people's mannerisms and just kind of figure out what the story is, right? So I'm sipping my beer, have my journal. I sort of am in and out of their conversation. It seems like they're both partnered. It seems like they're both partnered and in serious relationships. And they were talking about missing the chase and the fun of the chase. And it was such an elevated conversation for two seemingly bros at a brewery that I was like, that's really interesting. And then I tuned them out and I started working on what I was working on. And I was drinking my beer and I was writing and I finished my beer and they were looking right at me. And one of them said, we need to know what you're writing about. I said, I'm actually working on some song lyrics. I've never written a song before, but I just feel like I have them in me. So I thought I'd try. And so we started having this amazing conversation and they weren't hitting on me and they offered to buy me another beer. And we sat down and we had a really nice conversation and we talked about where they were at in life. And it was such a nice moment of like, hey, I'm connecting with two people. It doesn't feel creepy. It's not gross. Maybe they had a little crush on me. I mean, you can't blame them.
Yeah.
Did I think they were attractive? Yes. But were they both partnered? Yes. And they made that clear. So it wasn't like that.
Right.
It was just like a really normal, healthy cool conversation about life and where we're at. They were both in their late 20s, both with people they'd been with for a long time. One wasn't quite sure, but he has a baby with the person. And, I mean, it was on the edge of therapy, right? So I had to kind of stop him at some point and be like, thank you for the beer. I'm going back to writing.
Or that's 100 more beers,
right.
please.
This is not in the agreement. But like, I wonder what they talked about on the way home together. And it was just a nice, normal, like, hey, this is a random check-in with two strangers I'll probably never see again. But you never know. Maybe they have friends and maybe it could have become something, but that wasn't the vibe. But just that comfort.
It's so crazy that this is like a unique situation, the fact that this isn't what happens. People are so results oriented. It's always like, is this person hitting on me or could they be something? We just don't connect and have these types of conversations anymore.
Well, and we haven't talked about it, but that's one of the reasons I love solo travel, because I feel like in other places I've traveled in other countries, it's more like the experience that I just experienced, where people want to they're like, you're by yourself. What are you doing here? Let's talk about your trips. Let's talk about travel. Let me tell you where you should go to dinner. Hey, come with us. We're going to dinner. It's just a very different experience in the countries that I visited. And America hasn't felt like that. America is very protective, very closed off. Everyone's in their own bubble doing their own thing. Or if they're alone, they're on their phones. And so I really do try to make it a point when I travel and I go out to dinner, I have my phone with me, but I don't pick it up, or I'll maybe pick it up once or twice, but I'm not going to sit on my phone. It's even better to read or write or just look around and talk to people. It's amazing the connection that you can make with people, but it's not common here.
No, I think the other piece too is like, even if it doesn't lead to a date, it changes how you converse with people and connect with people. So you can bring that later on. We hear all the time, people that really struggle with forming any sort of emotional connection on a date. I guess for people like that, since you clearly do not seem to have that problem, what advice or thoughts would you have for them?
I would just say that every person that you meet, remember that they have value, whether it's value that you can see or that you will ever see, maybe not, but everybody has value and has a piece to play or a part to play in this life that we're living. And I think not looking at people as transactional, to bring it back to the whole swiping and the dating thing, you think, oh, this didn't go well. There's 10 more people that want to go out with me. Well, when you're in person and you're connecting with people in person, I think it's a lot easier to recognize the humanity and the story and want to know the story, get curious about who they are and what makes them who they are. That is such an amazing moment to pause and just be grateful for where we're at when the world seems like it's on fire and there are a lot of terrible things that are happening. Humanity is still really real. And when you recognize the value and the connection that people can have, it doesn't have to be transactional. That you don't have to get anything out of it. A free drink, a date, you don't have to be there for anything else but to connect.
For someone who's done so much self-work and you're on this journey to feeling strong in your own life and in your own skin, how do you find someone who's on the same wavelength? Because we've gotten this kind of question from some of our listeners is, I've done all this work and I feel really good about myself, but I also need a partner who's on a similar journey as me. Have you found ways that you can vet for that?
I mean, I haven't found a lot of volume in that area, so I don't claim to be, the person that has all the answers, but I think not feeling guilty for setting your standards high and holding yourself to a high standard. There's this song that I've been listening to and it just popped into my head. Have you guys heard it? I think it's called Anybody, and it's like, I set my standards high, but I could maybe drop them down for the night if the vibe is right. That just literally came through my brainwave. Totally not exactly what I was thinking. But so my therapist, something that I've worked with my therapist, and this was my therapist back in Texas, and I adored her. But, she talked about society and where we are as society as a pyramid. And, I always felt a little bit uncomfortable because she would say, you're near the top of the pyramid. Like you've really worked on yourself and you hold yourself accountable. There's a whole bunch of society who take no accountability for their actions or how they treat people or what they say. You care about society as a whole. You volunteer. You want to make the world a better place. Like your job is aligned to making it the employee experience really strong and making sure people feel safe and secure. So like your level of standard of human interaction and connection and engagement is really high. And so you're looking for the top of the pyramid and it's smaller at the top. It's just the way a pyramid works. So there's not as much volume. So you have to be okay with either, taking a moment and saying, hey, I'm going to be on a pause until I find somebody else who's near this level. Or, I'm going to dip down and be like, hey, my expectations aren't that somebody meets exactly what I've done or is on the same level. I'm okay with that. And that's not settling necessarily. It's just deciding that you're okay with a difference in connection there. So I don't have the answer yet. As far as like finding men, I mean, go to Home Depot, go to O'Reilly Auto Parts. I was at O'Reilly Auto Parts and I could have had 10 numbers yesterday and I was straight from work, sweaty. I did not look cute, but every man was like, hello, how can I help you? So that was a really good ego boost. But if you're looking for volume, but if you're looking for quality, for
love the tactical advice.
I guess Home Depot, O'Reilly's got it. Check.
Yeah, get a blowout and just like go have fun. That's what I would do if I was needing.
Get your car fixed.
Yes, exactly. Get those windshield wipers replaced. But no, as far as like that level of what I'm looking for. So I mean, this is so silly, but I got on the Raya app when I got here, which everyone's like, oh my gosh, you got on. How'd you get on? I just applied and then I got on.
You're like, it's not as selective as you
I mean,
think.
I applied and then like 4 or 5 months later, they said, you're in. And I said, great. And then I got on and it's a lot of male models and celebrities. And so whereas I thought maybe, oh, this is the cream of the crop. This is also men who are like very solid in their careers and go-getters. It's not what I expected. So I will not be getting a Raya sponsorship and I actually will not be renewing my membership because it's just kind of like, I could just go on Instagram if I wanted to look at Instagram male models.
Well, I think you bring up a good point though. What is the cream of the crop?
Right.
I think so often, like we think like, especially we've heard this before. It's like, well, I have an MBA. I need someone that has an MBA.
Yeah.
But someone can show up in a different way that's adding value that puts them at that top of that pyramid also, right?
I have an MBA and I specifically don't really want to date somebody with an MBA. I actually, it's not about, for me, it's not about career. It's not about levels. Do they have a place that they go, that they get paid, like a job? And do they like it? Do they enjoy it? I don't want to be with someone who's complaining about their job 24/7. I hear people complain all day at work. When I get home, I want someone who's genuinely pretty happy with what they do. And if that means they're a mechanic, then great. They can fix my car. And I think that's a really sexy skill to have. I make plenty enough money to take care of myself. And I can also, I feel like I have high income potential and will be fine. But like, I want someone that likes what they do, that feels like they add value to the world, someone who's a teacher. So integrity and consistency are the two things that I'm looking for the most in a partner. And so that I have been able to narrow down. Now, is that on an app or is that really easy to find right away, surface level? No. So I have to talk about it. I'm talking about it here right now with you guys. Maybe someone knows somebody. And that's part of the reason I thought I'd pitch myself because your listeners are so engaged.
Hey, they're at the top of the pyramid.
They're the cream
right?
of the crop.
They are.
Yeah.
They're at the tip.
Yeah. So
That's I love what you said though, Meredith, because that is the perfect example of being intentional and open at the same time. That you have these two things that you are unwilling to compromise on because heck, that's super freaking important in a long-term relationship. But you're not prescribed to a certain package of how it shows up.
Not at all. Not at all. I'm very open. And I mean, someone that I find attractive. And that's not necessarily what everyone would think, right? It's attraction for me is a good smile, twinkling eyes, someone, who has a great laugh, someone who has confidence in who he is. Those are things that I find very attractive. But when I first started dating and I was kind of going off the rails a little bit and I started tasting the menu, my mom made me make a list and she was like, Meredith, this is getting ridiculous. I can't keep track of who's who. Like this is too much. And she said, make a list of 10 things and just like core values, things you're looking for. And if they don't meet, let's say passing grade, 7 of those things, you don't need to keep dating them. Like once you find out that they're not meeting those things, and we're talking core values here, nothing like physical, then don't keep dating them because I don't want to keep trying to remember who's who. And it was really about her. No, I'm just kidding. No, she was looking out for me. And that was really great. And then my therapist has made me make a list of 50 questions to know about somebody before moving into a serious relationship with them. And it's not like, oh, I have 50 questions to ask you, but it's like, hey, maybe on a third date, I'm going to go in, I'm going going to look at my questions and I'm going to try to ask two or get to two of the topics and just slowly chip away so that I don't end up in a relationship with somebody who I don't really know and I don't end up losing myself.
That happens all the time.
Your therapist and your mom are very smart.
They're
people.
amazing.
Yes.
You know, we had this on an episode. We had something very similar. Those only 7 things that matter.
Yes.
They're not superficial qualities too. And, you know, I think that it's important to take that gut check. We are not all about lists, but if you have no North Star and no gut check, then you're just going
right. And
blindly,
then you get lost or overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And so here's the other dilemma that I can see our listeners asking too is like, what if you get too comfortable being alone because you're so happy, you're meeting your own needs, and it's harder to allow someone else into your life? Have you thought about that?
I have, and I do worry sometimes that I'm getting so good at being alone that I don't have a need for a man, but I still have a want, and I do feel like I'm still going to have that want. That's not going to go away. But have I opened myself up to thinking about it looking differently than it could have looked? What partnership could look like? Yes. Now, I'm not as crazy as some of your people that you've had on, like as far as openness. Like I'm not sharing. I don't share. I will not share. I can't even find one person that I like. I'm not going to find multiple. Like I'm a one man gal. Yeah,
Fair
it's
enough.
not for me. I respect it in others and think that's amazingly, but I'm just not there. But you know, sometimes I wonder, like, could I meet someone who's a little bit older and more established, and he has his own place and I have my own place, and we never cohabitate or we never get married, but we're long-term partners? And what could that look like? I mean, I love my space. Like ideally I'd have a townhouse and he'd have half and I'd have the other half. Like that would be my dream. We don't have to always sleep together unless we want to, or we can spend time together but then sleep separately. And if he snores, it won't matter. If I snore, it won't matter. You know, if his kitchen hygiene is not my level of kitchen hygiene, we don't have to fight about it. We'll just have dinner at my place, right? So I mean, I've thought about that, you know, but then also I think about, I kind of do want to share a place with somebody. I kind of do want to go to the farmer's market and come back and cook together in our place. It's our place. And with the right person, it'll all work out, and the future will work out the way it's supposed to work out. But I think for me, you know, it's the need versus the want. I don't need somebody anymore. I felt like I needed somebody at that time in my life, and I needed someone to help guide me because the world was scary, and I was living in a city where I didn't have a lot of people. And now I'm in a state where I don't know anybody. I just came out for work completely alone, and people message me all the time. I was at dinner. So let me backtrack. I'm working a ton while I'm here Monday through Friday. On the weekends, I try to take a road trip and go explore some part of California because it's amazing and it's stupid expensive. And while I'm here and paying the taxes, I might as well go enjoy it and explore it. And I love to explore. So I went to Santa Barbara and Ojai this weekend for a day trip by myself. I did an amazing hike to a waterfall in the morning. And then I went down to Santa Barbara and I was eating my favorite dish, which is a poke, some sort of poke deal. And this woman came by, this woman who was probably in her 60s, 70s. And she came up to me and she just said, "You are so confident. You seem so comfortable and so confident and calm and relaxed eating by yourself." And it was kind of like a question. And I said, "I am." And she's like, "I love that." And I said, "I actually moved here by myself. I moved across the country by myself. I do a lot of things. I travel the world by myself. So eating dinner this is nothing." And I mean, her face was just like, wow. But that's, she was like, good for you. And so I think, you know, it's not that I can't accommodate somebody else or wouldn't, but they're going to have to be amazing because my standard of living solo is so great. I'm not going to put up with someone who's inconsistent or flaky or lies.
But I actually think that's the best place to be coming from. And,
really
you know, I definitely was there myself too. And, you know, as example, you can get past it, right? When the right person comes in. But like you said, you're more discerning of who that person is because you don't need it anymore.
I feel like, Julie, you haven't talked enough about this, and I don't know if you can add this to the podcast, but as a listener, I really want to know, like, what was it about your current partner that made you go like, this is it. This is really, I'm gonna go deep in on this one.
Yeah, let's get there.
I think it was a lot of these qualities. I mean, we've obviously talked to all these daters. You and I have been doing, you know, this research essentially and taking it in for so long that I realized I was focused on the wrong things for so long. And, you know, certain things like consistency. So when you say that, it definitely rings for me. And I would describe myself as an anxious dater before. And we did this exercise with Dr. Abigail Lev that like changed my life. And it basically like, I don't know if you remember her from the schemas episode, but she said, whatever your like biggest schemas are your core needs in a relationship. You know, fear of abandonment was a big one for me. So finding someone consistent was so essential. And, you know, I think too in dating, so often we get wrapped up in like a fun date and a good experience, but that is not life.
No.
So just having someone that you can talk to, and, you know, my current partner, we just never stop talking. We always say that, like we never stop talking. And I just genuinely enjoyed myself with him. And, you know, I think I saw a lot of these qualities that were much deeper than maybe in the past. I was looking for someone that was more life of the party or in the social scene, like things that ultimately do not matter in the long haul. So, I mean, I think a big part of it though was getting clear on that stuff. Until you're clear, I don't know. And maybe it's a good segue to takeaways. Like, I feel like until you're clear and unapologetically yourself, that's when things fall into place and you realize what you need, not just take things kind of more reactively. I think I was so reactive in so much of my life too, of just dating people that wanted to date me, opposed to being like, oh, this is what I'm looking for. In Meredith, I think in your story, it's a really good, you know, what the takeaway I have is it doesn't matter what your past relationship experience is. If you know, came from a world where you had no identity because you were intertwined with someone else, or you're coming from a position where you've had no relationship experience and you've only been on your own, either way, as long as you bring what makes you you to a partnership and not hold back, that's when you're going to have a healthy long-term partner. So I love from this conversation, like so often people get stuck in what's going wrong in dating. And this doesn't mean that you never have a moment, Meredith. I'm sure that as I did too. It's just like, oh my God, this is so frustrating, right? We all have those moments, but overall, your energy and mentality is so positive and, you know, so energetic. And like, I'm like been thinking, like, I wish I had someone in the like area that I could set Meredith up with, you know, because
I'm thinking
you just like, you bring like vibrancy. And I think like when you bring that is like the most important thing you can do in dating. Like you can update your profile all day long, but it doesn't matter. And so often we try to focus on this stuff that simply doesn't matter, and opposed to looking at ourselves and how we can grow from dating.
Yeah, your energy is just contagious. I am inspired. I am energized. I feel so good about this conversation because I think this conversation gives hope to everyone out there, including myself who is in a relationship, but I have to constantly remind myself that I don't need to be in a relationship. I choose and want to be in a relationship. Yes. And I think you differentiating between need and want is so key here. And I hope people are listening to this, is that when you can fulfill all of your needs, all that's left is for your wants. I want to be with someone. I want a partner. I want this in my life. Or maybe I just don't need a partner. I don't want a relationship. Whatever that want is just the extra. It's the bonus because you've already filled everything for yourself. And when you don't need a partner, when you don't need a relationship, it makes you less thirsty in dating. It makes you less burnt out in dating because it's just an extra bonus for you at this point. It's not a livelihood, you know, of being in a relationship. And I really feel like you bring, Meredith, I feel like I'm on a America's Got Talent or something. Like I'm like we're the judging panel. Like, Meredith, that was a great performance. Golden buzzer for you. You're dateable. Yes, you're very dateable. You're a 10 out of 10. But what I admire about you is what I aspire to be is that you bring this very distinct flavor to the table. What I mean by this is like, if someone were to bring out the Meredith dish, I can taste it and be like, I know exactly what that is, and I can describe it to other people. There are some dishes that are like, this is a fusion. I'm not sure if I'm getting all the flavor profiles. You are just so distinct in who you are that it actually makes it easier for me and Julie to, you know, kind of talk about you with some of our single guy friends because we know exactly how to talk about you, but you know yourself so well that it makes me confident knowing who you are and how I talk about you.
Well, thank you. That's amazing. That's such a huge compliment. And I was just thinking I'm thinking back to the pandemic because that relationship that I was in ended in 2019 and then the pandemic started and I was getting my MBA and I had told myself, hey, when you're done with your MBA, because I was working full time in school and I thought, 2020 is the year I'm really going to date. And then 2020 happened. And so finding your podcast and finding the community and just knowing that there were other people out there who were experiencing it. And the pandemic dating wasn't great, had some weird video chats, like really not a lot to say there.
As like another takeaway, and I definitely feel like this round of dating, you asked me earlier, like what was different. I didn't hold back anything. And I feel like I hadn't done that as much in the past. I was similar to you, Meredith, that I was like, I'm happy as I am. So I'm just going to put it out there. If it sticks, great. And if it doesn't, I'm still good. And I think in that situation, you may quote unquote get rejected more because you're really putting yourself out there. Like Yue said, you're not this fusion that people kind of adapt everyone likes. But I do believe when you do meet that person that can see the value, then it will become a no-brainer for them.
Yeah.
And I think that's the benefit of being yourself, is that who really wants all these people that like lukewarm stick? You want someone that's like all about it.
I think so.
So Meredith, if people want to check out your Instagram content, where can they find you?
I'm Meredith TX. I'll always be Meredith TX. So they can find me very easily no matter where I live. I'm from Texas, so easy to find. Definitely mostly on Instagram. I'm trying the TikTok thing, but I still feel ancient. So still figuring that out.
Same. Yeah, we feel the same way.
We definitely look forward to keeping in touch with you on your dating journey.
Oh, thank you.
And we will figure out one day what the resident dating expert means. But for now, we will continue to stay in touch with you of your journey. So thanks again for sharing. Hopefully this was inspirational and uplifting for people to just keep going.
Thank you for having me. It was so nice to meet y'all and to see you in person. And, I have really enjoyed the podcast as a listener. And I really like the brunch talk. That's my favorite thing on Sundays. Like while I meal prep or I clean, I turn on brunch talk and it's like I'm having brunch with you guys.
Well, we will get
Love
brunch
that.
one of these days. IRL. This is going to happen. What really uplifts this podcast is your ratings and reviews in Apple Podcasts, because that's what helps validate our podcast so we can get great guests like Meredith here. So the more ratings and reviews we can get in Apple Podcasts, the more content we can bring to everyone. So we thank you for doing that. And thank you, Meredith, again for being on our show. We're going to wrap this up. Stay dateable. The Dateable Podcast is part of the Frolic Media Network. Find more podcasts you'll love at frolic.media/podcasts. You can follow us on Instagram at Dateable Podcast and visit dateablepodcast.com for access to all the episodes and our premium programs. Also, make sure to subscribe today if you haven't already on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast platform, so you are the first to get all the latest episodes. And most importantly, stay dateable.
Before you leave this episode, just a reminder to head over to dateablepodcast.com/programs if you want to get in on our Meeting People IRL Masterclass and see what else we have in store.